If there's one thing that you can do around the time of this Cancer full moon, let it be this. Listening to your emotions and your intuition. Sitting, pausing, seeing how it feels in your body, and really reflecting on what home, shelter, just sort of energetic boundaries feels like. And I say these things because we know that the moon is home in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. And as many of you already know, the moon is directly tied to our emotional state, our intuition, our relationships. And especially around the time of full moons in general, that's when a lot of these emotions can come to the surface. Just as the moon can raise the tides and all water particles on Earth, so too can it raise our own emotions and our intuitive abilities. Cancer in modern astrology is represented by the crab. It's also been represented by the lobster and even the turtle in some traditional cultures in the tropics. And it's no coincidence. These are all aquatic, animals that have shells or they have exoskeletons, really representing this overarching theme of protection, insulation, the home. Now, this lunation on January 13th, 2025 is going to be the first full moon of the year, and it'll likely be a deeply personal one for many of us, really illuminating these themes of emotional security, nurturing, and a sense of release. So with that said, let's explore the meanings for you as they unfold collectively and on an individual level, as I will be giving individual zodiac readings for each sign. And don't forget, the #1 way to support my work here on YouTube, if you aren't already subscribed, is literally just hitting the like button. It's free and it supports my free work, and I appreciate it, so thank you in advance. Now, this Cancer full moon will be peaking at 23 degrees in the sign of Cancer, opposing the sun, which will be in Capricorn. All full moons oppose the sun. Now, full moons really highlight in general these culmination points, as mentioned before, really moments of clarity and sometimes emotional intensity. And Cancer's more nurturing and intuitive energy will likely be inviting us to reflect on how far we've come in caring for not only ourselves, but for others. And it'll be inviting us to release anything that no longer serves us that doesn't feel aligned with those themes of self-care, holding space for how we actually feel, and also insulating ourselves in places where we might need to, i.e. boundaries. By the way, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you guys so much if you have gotten an Auraline astrology planner. We've been flooded with a bunch of new reviews for the 2025 planner, and I am honestly blown away by how much you guys are enjoying it. And I don't mean that to toot my own horn or anything like that. I work all spring and summer on these planners usually, and I work by myself. Even as I make these videos, I'm mainly by myself all the time. And so getting this type of feedback specifically on the details of the planner, on all of the sections, on the new additions, like, it means so much to me. Like, that was my Christmas gift, seeing those. So I just really want to say thank you for that. But anyway, let's first take a moment to look at the broader astrological influences that'll be shaping this lunation. So the top transits, essentially. So first up, we will have the sun in Capricorn forming a trine aspect with Uranus in Taurus. So this is the type of transit happening around this full moon that can indicate the higher likelihood of unexpected, yet usually constructive breakthroughs. And I say this because Uranus is the planet of innovation, of change. It's really all about progressiveness and innovation. And when it comes together with the sun, which is almost boosting its effects, so to speak, together, this aspect is really suggesting potential surprising revelations that could be unfolding, specifically in areas tied to our association with stability, resources, and our long-term visions of what will play out in the world. It can be this moment where we can feel a sort of shakeup that can tend to have more longer lasting effect. But ultimately, it's usually tied to some level of progress in some way. It's just likely that there can be some unexpected changes around the time of this full moon. And we really want to look closely at what's going on with the moon, because we know this is a full moon, but because it's in Cancer, anything going on with the moon will be very relevant at this time. And with that said, we will see that the moon in Cancer will be sextiling with Uranus in Taurus. So really a lot of Uranus stuff. So this transit will be pointing to more intuitive insights and more emotional liberation for a lot of us. Now, the moon's connection to Uranus will be creating a lot more opportunities to potentially break free from old emotional patterns and embrace potentially unexpected opportunities for growth. So this energy will especially show up in terms of matters of the home, our sense of security, self-worth, and offering a bigger sense of freedom and renewal for many of us. And I say this because, again, Uranus is this planet that is associated with unexpected changes. Depending on its transit and where it's at, this could be unexpected positive changes and positive opportunities, but it could also be unexpected shifts on a global scale as well, where it's, at the end of the day, it wasn't expected and it shifts our perspectives of things. From my perspective, I think that around the time of this full moon, likely leading up to it, it might not happen all over the world, but I feel like something might happen that creates seismic shifts globally that does make us on a collective level reflect on our sense of security in some way. And so, make of that what you will. And this is off topic, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Comment down below if y'all have heard about the Dior bags. That's all I'm going to say. Comment down below. I'd love to hear. Now, another transit happening around the time of this Cancer full moon will be when we see retrograde Mars, also in Cancer, trining with Neptune in Pisces. So this is the type of transit that can soften Mars's retrograde energy, and it'll be indicating a higher potential for a sense of healing through compassion and our creative ideas. And this suggests a lot of more emotional release that can happen, especially in areas of your life where you might have felt more stuck or blocked. So it can be helpful when it comes to approaching challenges with a bit more imagination, but also just relieving any sort of tension to really hold space for how you're feeling versus trying to force things, especially if there's anything that's been coming up that has felt like there has been stagnation. And finally, there's a lot of relevant transits happening around this full moon. We'll see Venus in Pisces will be squaring with retrograde Jupiter in Gemini. Now, this is the type of transit that I don't think will be too bad. I don't associate it with anything negative, but it's the type that can indicate this period of time that's really highlighting tensions between Venus ruled aspects of our lives, like our idealism around love and harmony, and Jupiter's more expansive but scattered energy. And it sort of suggests this push and pull dynamic around balancing our sense of idealism with practicality, specifically when it comes to our relationships and any sort of creative pursuits that we might have. Now, this transit could also be encouraging many of us to reflect on our dreams and whether or not they're realistic, and also what it looks like to overextend yourself, maybe spotlighting the fact that you have been doing that. All right, y'all, next up, let's explore how this full moon in Cancer will be impacting each sign based on the house that it's transiting for you. So go ahead and go to the timestamps to find the reading for your zodiac sign. Also, I wanted to say sorry for the video delay. I know I usually put out these videos about a week before any given lunation, but when I tell you, when this new year hit, like, I feel so aligned with nature right now and that I don't want to do anything, y'all. But I'm just wishing all of you guys a very, very peaceful 2025, a year of divine protection, a year of divine alignment, and a year of divine clarity. Hello, and welcome to my Cancer friends. So this full moon will be spotlighting your first house. This is all about you. It's a house of identity, self-expression, and personal growth. And this will be highly likely a deeply emotional moment, really inviting you to reflect on how far you've come in stepping into your personal, authentic self. When you think of what is your identity, what does that look like to you? If you wrote those things down, what would you write? These are the type of things that can be very illuminating around this time. I do want to potentially warn of this because this happened to me when we had the Gemini full moon. You and Capricorn energy right now, you know what? Maybe give a little space. Give each other a little space if there's any of that. There can be a bit of tension in that space, and that's totally okay. Just know that it does pass as the full moon ends and the light wanes from the surface of the moon. So too can any sort of tension that you're feeling. So really consider waiting out any high emotion type interactions that maybe you don't know if you'll be able to conduct in a constructive way, if you get what I mean, okay? But on a more positive note, really consider celebrating the ways that you have grown in your confidence and your self-awareness. So consider asking yourself, what potentially old insecurities or fears no longer serve the version of yourself that you know that you're becoming? really consider releasing them to make space for deeper self-love. Hello and welcome to my Leo friends. So this full moon will be illuminating your 12th house of introspection, imagination, healing, and spiritual growth. So this can be a really great time to reflect on your inner world. How have you nurtured your personal mental health and spiritual well-being, especially at this time in the winter? Really consider celebrating any strides that you've made within this realm, especially when it comes to letting go of potentially subconscious fears or even potentially self-sabotaging habits. And consider asking yourself, what emotional patterns or hidden beliefs are potentially holding you back? And can you release them around this time? Are you ready to take steps in that direction if those things have been coming to the forefront of your mind at this time? Hello and welcome to my Virgo friends. Now this full moon will be lighting up your 11th house of community, friendships, and long-term goals. So really consider reflecting on any potential progress that you've made when it comes to connecting with like-minded people and working towards your dreams in any sort of way, or the dreams of the collective around you. And consider celebrating how your sense of belonging and purpose has developed over the years. Maybe ask yourself, are there any friendships, groups, or goals that in any aspect no longer serve you in any way? Consider releasing these sort of things around the time of this full moon, whether it's writing them out, getting clear on it, or getting clear on the steps that you want to take of moving in the direction that is most conducive to you feeling secure, safe, and welcome in the communities that you inhabit. Hello and welcome to my Libra friends. So this full moon will be illuminating your 10th house of career, public image, of taking what you have learned and actually implementing it for the greater good, about in contrast to your inner circle, your outer circle, and your reputation. So this Cancer full moon can be a potent moment for you to reflect on your more professional accomplishments, how you interact with the greater community around you, and ask yourself, how has your career or your connection to your community and broader community evolved over the last 6 months? How have you or how can you bestow and share the insights, tools, or resources or abilities or talents that you have to support other people around you? And have you been doing those things? And consider asking yourself, are there any professional roles, ambitions, or public perceptions that no longer resonate with who you are, that feel outdated? Really let go of what feels misaligned to create space for a more authentic path ahead. That way you don't feel maybe obligated to uphold an image that's not really aligned with who you are. Hello and welcome to my Scorpio friends. Now this full moon will be shining a light on your 9th house of your personal beliefs, higher learning, philosophy, religion, and expansion. And really consider reflecting on how your worldview and personal growth has evolved over the years, or knowledge that you've gained along the way. And what I mean by that is deep learning. And consider asking yourself, what potentially outdated beliefs or limiting perspectives are you ready to release around this time? Really use this time to embrace a more expansive and open-minded approach to life. And what I mean by that is, because this is transiting your 9th house, and it does have so much to do with your emotions, idealism, and being in the heart versus the head, and it's involving expanding your awareness, this is really highlighting for you a likelihood around the time of this full moon where you are faced with maybe the reality, like on one side of the coin, it's like you could be faced with the reality of how little you know on a certain subject. And for many people who are more egoic, it's like, well, I'm going to dig my heels into the dirt and I'm not going to move and my ego is harmed and blah, blah, blah. But if you're open-minded, that could look like a beautiful opportunity to just learn more. Just ask people who have different experiences than you what you should do. Do more research, you know, and not be too defensive about it. That's what I feel called to say. On the other side of the coin, you might be interacting with people where you feel like, oh, I need to share this information with them, or I need to provide resources. But ultimately, this can be a really great time for sitting down to learn something. If you've been feeling called to do that, this could be a really interesting time where you're finally following your heart to dive deeper on a subject that you have been called to explore for a long time. So ultimately, it does have to do with expanding your awareness. You know, the 9th house is also associated with long distance travel. Again, expanding your world, expanding your awareness through traveling and experiencing other people's worlds. So especially because this is a Cancer full moon, I can see this involving expanding your empathy as well. So that's what's coming up, but I'm wishing you a happy full moon. Hello and welcome to my Sagittarius friends. So this full moon will be spotlighting your 8th house, really activating it and your sense of transformation, intimacy, and shared resources. So this can be a great time to reflect on how far you've come when it comes to facing your fears and embracing emotional depth. So really consider reflecting on how far you've come in facing any fears and embracing your emotional depths or the depths of others. And celebrate any potential inner transformation or shifts in your relationships, especially when it comes to vulnerability. Because being able to be vulnerable with people is what deepens intimacy and connections and a sense of trust in our relationships. I could absolutely see that around this time, there are situations where you are being invited to finally open up about something, or other people open up to you. But ultimately, there's these deeper rooted feelings that are being expressed. And I know that for many of us, that could be very uncomfortable and scary. And ultimately, this could show up in so many ways. That does not equate to, you should open up to them and you should be vulnerable to them. No. Sometimes it's like, okay, thank you for sharing that. But I also am learning how to set my boundaries. And now I have strengthen my ability to set these boundaries to protect my own energy. And in other cases, that does look like this really notable, almost cosmic experience that through being vulnerable and through either you holding space for somebody else and helping them to feel safe enough to process something with you and open up to you, or vice versa, you're co-creating a dynamic with yourself and others of deeper levels of trust and of knowing that you are safe. And again, thus a deeper level of intimacy. So consider asking yourself, what potentially emotional baggage or shared commitments are you ready to let go of to feel more empowered? Is there any sort of baggage also that's holding you back at this time? Because full moons are great for releasing. All right, hello, and welcome to my Capricorn friends. Now this full moon will be illuminating your 7th house of partnerships, of one-on-one connections, relationships, and balance. So consider reflecting on the process that you've been in your relationships and how you've cultivated a sense of balance and support within your relationships. Really consider celebrating the growth that you've experienced in love and collaboration as well. Around the time of this full moon, I definitely see there being this spotlight on your relationships. And for some of you, this could show up as this spotlight on how little you have been helping to co-create healthy relationships with others, and maybe something's coming to the surface. On the other side of the coin, it could be, these necessary conversations that come up that are sparking this conversation of like, hey, let's work on balancing things. This could also be a beautiful time where you are enjoying the fruits of your labor, of how you have already been co-creating really great relationships. I'm thinking right now about what comes to mind is that as the time of me recording this, there are these crazy fires going on in California, and I'm from California. And these are the times when you kind of see how everyone's showing up for one another. And these are these pivotal times where relationships are all that matter, these networks of support. Also just that, we're only a few days into 2025 and a lot has been going on in the world. And it's just really important to foster healthy relationships with one another and give unconditionally to the people who you feel safe around. And also not be afraid to receive, not be afraid to express your needs. These are the general themes that can come up around this time for you. And you can consider asking yourself, what relationship dynamics or even expectations no longer serve you? Really consider releasing any of those things to create space for healthier connections around the time of this full moon. Hello and welcome to my Aquarius friends. Now this full moon will be highlighting your 6th house of health, of daily routines, and of service. So really consider reflecting on how you've improved in your personal habits and how you've cared for your well-being and the well-being of your family. And really consider celebrating the positive changes that you've made in your daily life and in your routines over the course of the last 6 months or even years. And consider asking yourself, what routines or responsibilities are potentially draining you? And how can you potentially let those go? The sense that I'm getting for you, my Aquarius friends, is that there has potentially been a lot of pressure that you have put on yourself or that people have put on you to kind of have your ish together, especially at the beginning of this year. And this sense of tension of how you need to show up and how you need to be. And I feel like this full moon is indicating potential experiences where for many of you, you're being invited to stop being in the cerebral and figuring out how am I going to plan things and I'm not doing this right, and pause and ask yourself on a deeper level, why? Why do you feel this need to be perfect right now? Why do you feel this pressure to be in action in one form or another? Where does that come from? And also checking in with your body and checking in with your health and looking at things through that lens of what is nourishing you to actually have the energy to eventually do whatever it is that you need to do. How can you pour into your cup? That way you're not pouring from an empty cup, but what everybody's getting is an overflow because you put your oxygen mask on first. Looking at things from that perspective. Are you tired? Are you tired? That's okay. Like, it's okay to be tired. I'm going on a whole thing, but I just felt called to say that to y'all. I'm sending you my love, and I hope that you have a beautiful new year. Hello, hello to my Pisces friends. So this full moon will be shining a light, spotlighting, activating your 5th house of creativity, joy, and self-expression. So consider reflecting on how far that you've come when it comes to prioritizing your sense of fun and following your personal passions. Really consider celebrating any forms of creativity or creative breakthroughs or moments of joy that you've been experiencing, and where do those things come from? But also consider asking yourself, what potential creative blocks or fears around self-expression are you potentially ready to release at this time? Hello, hello. This is a different setting, different camera. But my camera, when I was recording this, it went out and I didn't notice until I was editing, which is right now. And so, but you know what? By golly, we're going to get this reading completed. So my Aries friends, this Cancer full moon will be transiting your 4th house. Now, your 4th house is the house of Cancer, which is really interesting. And like I mentioned before, Cancer is represented by the crab, the lobster, and sometimes even the turtle, and so when you see that this full moon will be activating this 4th house, it'll be bringing in a lot of illumination around how you insulate yourself, how you protect yourself, your heart, what are your boundaries? And it indicates this higher likelihood of potential experiences where things come to the surface involving things having to do with your home, things having to do with maybe even moving in some way, or needing to set boundaries in some way in some cases. But ultimately, this is a very emotional house to be in, and this is a very emotional lunation happening right now. So really consider taking the time to pause and ask yourself, in what ways do you protect your inner self? Literally think of your inner child. In what ways do you protect that part of you? In what ways do you protect your home and the people around you? In what ways do you advocate for yourself in those ways? But ultimately, I think that this full moon will definitely be spotlighting those themes, and I just feel like there's going to be a lot of emotions for y'all, but it's going to ultimately be highlighting where you and others set boundaries, and also a lot of family dynamics. Like when you think of the 4th house, a lot of it has to do with your inner circle, your more immediate friends and community, your more immediate space and where you live oftentimes. So I think that there's going to be definitely things popping up within those spaces. And especially with Uranus so heavily involved, there might be sudden shifts or revelations, especially within those spaces for you. So I'm sending you my love, my Aries friends. Hello to my Taurus friends. This is a different setting. This is a different camera angle. That is because your girl, there's only a certain amount of time that my camera can record for, and then I have to pause and hit record again. And I I messed up on it, you know, sorry. But anyway, I'm going to start the first half of your reading here, and then the second half was actually recorded. So to start off, this Cancer full moon will be transiting your third house of communication, information exchange, learning, and short-term travel. The third house is the house of Gemini. It's a house that's ruled by Mercury. And so this full moon will be illuminating all things communication. Like when you think of this full moon and it being in Cancer and it being likely high emotion for many of us, and with it being involved with Uranus with these higher likelihood of sudden changes, it's really indicating that for you, my Taurus friends, there's a higher likelihood that there's going to be unexpected communication, unexpected expressions of emotions, whether it's from you finally speaking your piece in some way, or finally, you know, saying something, feeling safe enough to express something, or it could be with other people. But this is going to be relatively immediate. This is going to likely show up by email or by friends or by family members, but there's a high likelihood of unexpected things popping up for you right now. Ignore this stuff over here. Ignore, oh my gosh, I'm like looking at the angles. The sun is literally setting. I'm racing against time, y'all. But anyway, we will now cut to the edit for the rest of your reading that was recorded correctly on my other camera. I'm sending you love. Mwah. And in general, it seems like this full moon will be indicating experiences that spotlight the importance of you not only expressing your needs, your inner world, your emotions. That way you're on the same page with people, but also reflecting on any dynamics where you haven't felt safe or secure enough to actually honestly express those needs. Like reflecting on the social dynamics that you have been around and whether or not there's things that you might be ready to release, whether that's standards, whether that's confidence in yourself, whether that's upholding the values that you know that you have within you and the things that you know that you deserve, in order to be in environments where you can properly express your inner world. Because this is a Cancer full moon. It is all about our emotions and our intuition and our connections with people. And it's because it's transiting the third house, which is this third house of Gemini. It's all about information exchange. I think something else that could pop up is a lot of information coming out. You taking in a lot of information, or you helping to share it in some way. All right, hello to my Gemini friends. So this full moon will be illuminating or activating your second house of finances, values, and personal resources, things in the tangible world. So consider reflecting on how far you've come in building a sense of stability and aligning your values. And consider celebrating the growth that you've achieved in managing your resources over the last 6 months and years. What financial habits or even attachments no longer align with your priorities, especially when it comes to the second house realm? All right, y'all, next up, let's go over some journal prompts to help you process the energy of this Cancer full moon together. If you have your 2025 Auraline Astrology Planner, you can now flip to the very first lunar journal area in it to write all of these out. Are there any emotional patterns or attachments that you have outgrown? Describe them. How has your ability to nurture and support yourself evolved over the years? How would you compare it to 5 years ago? And finally, is there anything that you're ready to release at the time of this full moon? All right, y'all, if you made it to the end, I would love if you commented 3 water wave emojis for this Cancer full moon, this water sign. And again, the number one way to support my work here is to just hit the like button. It tells, it helps with the algorithm. It helps spread my work to other people. And finally, if you haven't already checked out either the Auraline Planner or the wall calendar, I think that you would love it. It's perfect for the office, for the classroom, for your space. I made it jumbo, the wall calendar. I made it extra large on purpose. Literally what we package it in, the packaging is like relatively unique because of how relatively big the calendar is. And I did that because if you know me, I'm a little neurospicy. And it helps me so much to have visual cues of what's coming up, to be able to just look at the wall and I see it, versus sometimes things are kind of like tucked away. So if that's something that resonates with you, definitely check that out. This is the perfect time for the new year. And there's also a habit tracker on it, which has helped me so much over the years. But again, thank you so much for your incredible reviews of the planners. And I'm so glad to hear that you're enjoying the new additions to the planner, the new features. And it really does mean the world to me, and I'm sending you so much deep, deep, deep gratitude and wishing you a beautiful 2025. Please stay safe. Please stay safe, and I'm sending you my love.